So welcome back to Quick Start Coaching Code live 30-day boot camp. We are live on Facebook and YouTube for our second to last live stream, our second to last little mini coaching session over the interwebs. And as I have been doing for the last 4 weeks, I can't believe this is still happening, but very, very soon it will end. This has been a real labor of extra time that I didn't really have, but I have enjoyed sharing these distinctions with you. So what have I been doing? Of course, covering these distinctions, these keys to the locks on the doors of successfully starting your coaching business. And today we're going to talk about transitioning. I talked about yesterday that one of the first niche questions that I got an answer for was, what am I doing really well? And I was helping people transition, not just, people. I wasn't at all helping people become coaches at the time, but I was just really good at helping people cross those chasms, emotional, mental, financial, etc. And it was just one of the things that I found people really needed that I was able to do really well. So we're going to talk about this from a coach perspective here, transitioning to a full-time coach. And we're going to talk about what that is, why bother doing that, and how to do it as well. And give you the nuts and bolts strategies to transitioning to a full-time coach. And then we'll talk a little bit about what it takes as well. So if you've made it this far in the conversation, then you really are a rare student, a rare coach to actually get to the point where you're actually looking at and talking about or being open to the conversation of transitioning full time. It's a real different world than just like telling people you're a coach or thinking about coaching or doing a little bit of dabbling and moonlighting as a coach on the side, or just kind of coaching your friends, or a million other variations on this kind of like being half in, half out type of approach. And by the way, all of those things are really okay. It really is okay if you never transition to be a full-time coach. And whatever you're going to do as a coach, whatever you're going to do, even if it's just one time and never again, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But this conversation is very different. This is a whole different level. And I remember when I did this. This was like 19 years ago at this point. And now the first time I was a full-time coach was, I don't even think it counts because I was hired to coach as a job. So if you're, if you're coaching, if your job is to coach and you just do that job full time and somebody just pays you and you just do the job, it's great. It's a great learning process. There's no doubt, but it's not really a business, right? You didn't build that yourself. You didn't do that. I remember one day I'm working for Tony Robbins. We were in an all coach meeting, and all of like the coach sales people were in there, and even some of the personal account reps, they called them PARs at the time. And Tony was in the front of the room, and he was telling us all about what his plans were and what was going on. And he said, one of the things that I'm noticing in this division is that you guys are losing your clients like right after their contract is up, like right after some people would sign up for a UPW seminar and they'd only be in coaching for like 1 to 3 months. And as soon as that 1 to 3 months was over, they just leave. Right. That was their agreement. They wouldn't do anything more. And then some people signed up for like his mastery program. They were really serious. And they were given, though, along with that, bundled into the program, they were given like a 6 months or a year of coaching. And some people never showed up for their coaching, but some people did. And then after that coaching was no longer, something that was already covered for them, they had to pay extra for it. They would quit. And he said, you're not the reason these people are in coaching with you if that's all you're doing. Like these people that are in for 3 months and then they leave. I did that. They're working with you because of me. Like that has nothing to do with you. So don't be patting yourself on the back and thinking you're so great because because you got somebody to show up for sessions with you. And of course, like I said, sometimes people didn't. And he said, there's people that are, there for 6 months or a year because they're in mastery with me. I signed them up. I got them in. They're working with you because they like what I did for them. That has nothing to do with you. And he said, if you're really gonna step up and be valuable to this division, if you are going to be the kind of coach that is priceless for your clients are going to stay with us way, way longer than just 3 months or 6 months or 12 months or whatever they originally agreed to. And so you're just riding my coattails. And I'm paraphrasing. This was like 18 and a half years ago. So like, I know this is what he was talking about. And I'm sure the situation is a little different. I'm sure I've warped it in my memory, but he was really in our faces about it. Like, people after that meeting were, their feathers were ruffled. They were upset. They were pissed. They were wounded. And, some people just, we work for Tony, like most of us were like totally loved him as well. So, a lot of people were just like, okay, that's okay. Got it. Fine. We'll do better. And that kind of thing. And so anyway, he went on, and not to get into the deep detail of it, but, the point I think I bring after 18, 19 years of running my full-time practice and business without Tony, like not riding his coattails at all, I know what he means now. Like, I get it. And the difference between me just working for him and just taking everything he had to give because of what he built and gave his life over for, really literally gave his life up for, or most of his time in his life, if not pretty much your life, versus at each client I get to work with now, each student I get to work with now, the thing I've built now, right? It's just a different world, right? And so transitioning to a full-time coach, if it's just a job or something like that, that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about transitioning into your own business, transitioning into not just like a career move, but really building your own practice. Like, it's your thing. It's independent of Tony Robbins or somebody else that's just going to dole out clients to you because like you're just like working for them. Okay. So just wanted to kind of clarify that definition. But like I said, I remember when I first went full time, and that I don't even qualify me working for Tony as going full time. But I left Tony after a while, and I did not go into my own coaching business at the time. I was doing other businesses. I was dabbling in other things. I was trying all those sorts of different things. My ambition was kind of really getting me caught up in like what else I could do with my skills that I had learned as a coach and what I learned from Tony as well. And then very shortly after, like within a year or so, I was, just getting out of an abusive relationship. I was almost broke. I was completely lost in my career. I was working at the time for a startup TV station or a startup TV or organization, like video-based content producer. And at the time that was TV because there wasn't much of an internet back then. It was like 2002. And I wasn't passionate about it. I didn't care about it. I mean, I was ambitious. I was seduced by the significance that was involved in doing it rather than like actually having a heart for it. Right. And I was busy building business plans and doing pro formas and raising capital and planning out marketing. And I mean, nothing wrong with any of that stuff. I still do things like that today in this business, but I could really care less what was going to happen. I just was doing it for my own ego's sake, nothing else. And so I found myself after I had, left my girlfriend at the time, which is this abusive relationship. I won't even go into what happened, but like there were police involved and there was all sorts of physical and mental altercations and things that I just like were completely below my sense of what I thought my life should be like and my standards for myself, for that matter, of what I would be willing to put up with from me and from people around me that I lived with or people in my family or love interest, etc. And so I'd moved out. I'd moved into this little tiny trailer where It was the only thing that at the time I was kind of allowed to move into for a variety of reasons, like for financial reasons, and also because I was still trying to kind of like mitigate the issues between me and my soon-to-be ex-girlfriend at the time as well. And the reason she like let me move into this little trailer on someone else's property was the property owner wouldn't let it, like she wouldn't let female visitors onto the property. And I had a very jealous girlfriend at the time, right? And so she was like, this sounds like a perfect place for you, and I'm looking at this little tiny trailer where literally you like the toilet, if you could call it a toilet, you had to like pump it in order to get everything out of it. Once a week, you had to take a hose and run it through the toilet just to make sure that it didn't like back up, because it wasn't real. It was one of those things that was like you could hook up to the back of your car and just take it on a journey with you, right? This was not like a place to live. Okay, I remember, late at night in this little trailer. We were up in the hills in Vista, California, so it's like it gets cold up there. It's like gets into the 50s or 40s, and so there's no real heat in this little trailer. They've got this little space heater, and the pilot light would go out like every hour or so. So I would turn the burners on the stove, and the burners would be going like 3 feet high, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to burn this thing down, but I was just trying, like, that was the only way I could keep things kind of warm in the trailer. This was definitely, I guess the point I'm making here is like, this was hitting bottom for me, right? In every way, like physically, mentally, financially, relationship wise, just career wise. Cause I like, this was a situation I thought, like, I thought I made all the right decisions. I thought I did all the right stuff. I thought I have all these skills I've learned from Tony Robbins. I know it all. And yet here's where I am. Like, and I said to myself, like, I'm not even doing what I love. And this is the result. Like, I thought I could like give up what I love and then I'll get something in exchange for it. And I gave up all those things I really cared about. And yet this is what I had. Like, what I had was worse than what I would have had had I just pursued my passion. And I said to myself, I was like, Suey, you're not even doing what you were put here for. You're not even living your purpose. So why are you doing all this stuff? And I said to myself, well, I'm not ready to be a coach, right? I'm not ready. I'm just a kid. Who the heck am I? Like, when I worked for Tony, I could ride his coattails. Everybody wanted to work with me because Tony told them to, right? But what are they going to do when it's just me? What are they going to do when I tell them to work with me and no one else is around? It's just my own brand, right? And then I said, well, I really want to do that, but there's no money in it, right? Like, how am I going to make money? I gotta get rich first, and then I can help other people. Maybe when I'm like 40, right? Maybe when I finally succeed in life. But at this point, I'm not ready for that. And then I said, well, how am I going to get clients? I don't know the first thing about that. I mean, I learned some skills from Tony, but I don't know anything about marketing. Like, I'm just a kid. I can't do this. I'm 27. Who do you think you are? And I just had all this negativity about it, all these fears, all these excuses. And I finally asked myself, okay, Jeff, well, if you're not going to do it now, when are you really going to do it? Well, I mean, you're at the bottom now. You got nothing to lose. If you're not going to do it now in your life, like, when are you really going to do it? When you have a better job and you have a better situation, like, then you're going to be attached to all that stuff. It's going to be hard to pry you away from your other life. So, like, all that stuff you're saying, it's just excuses. It's just a bunch of BS, and you're just scared. And you don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to fail. And that's when I really that's what I really realized what was stopping me. It's like, what if I fail? What if I try and I tell everybody I'm going to do it, and then I fail and it doesn't work out, and then I have to like crawl home with my tail between my legs, and everybody points and laughs and said, you thought you were so great. You thought you could be a coach. You thought that you had these skills. You thought that you could do this on your own after working for Tony. And look what happened to you. That's what I was really afraid of. All the other stuff was just justification. It was really all BS. And so I just realized, I'm just making excuses because I'm scared. That's it. And so I asked myself a key question. I asked myself, okay, well, if that's the worst that can happen, is that, first of all, can I handle it? Can I survive that? Am I somebody who can handle that if that occurs? Am I so, are other people's judgments of me and their point of view about me so important to me, so life or death, that I won't survive that? Is that really what my life is about? Like pleasing everyone around me, making everybody else that I don't necessarily agree with their opinions anyway, and they probably, half of them probably already have crappy opinions of me. Is that really what my life's about? Is that really what I should be worried about? Is that gonna be a problem? And I realized, you know what? It would suck. Like it would be painful. There's no doubt. It'd be embarrassing, but I could totally survive it. In fact, it might even motivate me to really make it work, to make it happen. You know, as long as I don't quit. And so I said, well, okay, if it's going to be painful, but I can survive it, then the final question is it worth it though? Is it worth risking that? Is it worth risking, or maybe even guaranteeing that I'm going to have that kind of pain? People are going to judge me, and it's going to be a little embarrassing at times and uncomfortable. Like, is this vision for who you are as a coach? Is this vision for what you could do for humanity and the differences that you can make? The depth that you can go to with people that other people around you just would never even imagine, and changing lives and getting paid for it and having a lifestyle that's amazing and having the flexibility that you want, but truly living who you know yourself to be in the face of your fears and the challenges and all that, and just busting through that and saying, heck, I'm not going to let that stuff stop me, and having the pride of that. Is the possibility of that, not guaranteed, right? But just the possibility of that, is that worth the pain that I just realized I'm really afraid of? And I thought, well, gosh, if that is what my life is about, if this is really who I am, then of course it's worth it. It's worth that 10x. It's worth 10 times the pain, you know, because frankly, that pain's not that bad. Number one, like I said, I could survive it. And number two, you know, if that's all there is, like the pleasure of actually having it the way I know it could be, and becoming who I know I am, and then making the difference I know I could, it's like, you know, it's like a no-brainer. I should be able to do that 10 times over. Now, whether I can or not, and whether I'm just going to decide to do that or not, that's a whole nother thing. But I realize I'm just making excuses. I'm just being scared, and there's no need for that. Because the only reason to be afraid is that it's something worth avoiding, and it wasn't worth avoiding that compared to the reward. Does that make sense? It was like Jim Rohn always liked to say, it's easy to pay the price when the promise is clear. And the promise to me was always clear. It's just that I didn't realize that I hadn't clarified that I was willing to pay the price yet. I hadn't committed yet. And so I finally committed. I said, you know what? I got nothing else to lose. I hit bottom anyway. You know, it might be more embarrassing, but you know, what the heck? This is the motivation I need. This is the position I should be in, where I could actually do something with this. And so I set a goal. I said, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. I'm going to start getting paying clients. I already had like one paying client at the time, but it was literally like $50 a month. And you know, like I said, I wasn't full time. You know, it was completely part time, if you could even call that part time, right? It was just moonlighting. And I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fully commit. I'm not going to do anything else. This is who I am. And from that trailer, I wired a phone into my trailer. I wired internet into my trailer. We literally had dial-up at the time, right? 2002. So it was phone or internet, not both, right? And I started making phone calls from there, calling ex-clients, calling people that I thought could run a session. And of course, I never told them my situation. I did not tell them that I was sitting in a trailer, you know, which you could hook up back to the back of your car, living on somebody else's property for $400 a month. I did not tell them that. Okay, like working on my kitchen sink. I did not tell them any of that stuff. Okay, but I did it. And every day I kept raising my standards on who I could be or who I was, because I knew it's like who I'm being is going to impact my clients. It's going to impact how I get them. It's going to impact the difference that I can make, because my standard, like if I don't have it for myself, it's going to be much harder to give it to others. And he said, I must embody that force that I look to ignite in others. I kind of stole that little bit of a affirmation from Tony Robbins, but I would do that every day just really like getting that psychology deeper and deeper and deeper inside of me as I actually followed through on the kind of things that you're doing right now in QUICKSTART. And you think, well, gosh, kick butt, Jeff. I mean, this is going to be great. Well, I very soon after that, like within 3-4 months, maybe a little bit more than that, I went broke. I had blown through the rest of my savings. I had gotten like 1 or 2 more clients. I don't even know if I got that. I mean, I think I maybe got 1 if I was lucky, 1 more client. And I completely hit bottom. I remember the day that I had to call my family, and it was so embarrassing because I had to tell them, I don't know how I'm going to get my next meal. Like I'd taken remember the $20,000 a month influencer strategy, that free session strategy we talked about that Sandy Vilas taught us. I had taken somebody out to lunch because I was trying to get them as a client, and I was going to pay for just my lunch. I wasn't even paying for theirs. We were at like a food court, just meeting for lunch, right? And I had, my bank account had no money in it. I had a negative balance. And so it was so embarrassing. I walked back to where this individual was sitting, my prospective client, and I sat down. I had no food, right? And he had gotten his food, right? And he come and sat down. And he's like, well, what are you on, like a diet or something? Like, what's going on? I couldn't think anything else I couldn't think of a better lie, right? So I just said, oh, you know what? It looks like my card didn't work. Looks like I'm out of cash in my account right now. He said, that's okay. So he ended up like buying lunch for me, and it was just so embarrassing. But I went home and I called the parents and I said, I'm not sure where I'm going to get money for food because like there is none. And so they're like sending me a check so I could live for the next week. I mean, it was really embarrassing. Like the very fears that I just shared with you were coming true. They were just starting to come true. I didn't know how far it was going to go. And finally, I figured it out. I figured out that the one client I had gotten, or 2 or whatever it was at the time, the way that I had gotten those couple clients was I hadn't done any crazy marketing strategy. I hadn't done any kind of fancy sales techniques. I just coached them from the heart, and I'd given them so much value that they decided to sign up for coaching with me, and it was worth it for them. I just gave them value. And that's where I got this kind of grow your business by coaching approach that we use to this day in QUICKSTART, where you're really coaching in order to get your clients. You're not doing some kind of other weird convoluted thing, right? You're just setting coaching sessions, you're coaching, and then you're signing people up, and rinse and repeat. And from there, I had great skills already at the time. So I just said, I'm just going to do that. And for some of you who've read some of the emails that talk about this in more detail, like all the integral aspects of that strategy. And I don't want to waste that time right now because this is really just about going full time, like we talked about just a second ago. So I was already, full time. I was just failing, right? So anyway, I just started coaching everybody that I met. I called everybody and set free sessions with them and coach them. No more lunch meetings, no more weird convoluted strategies. I just coached and coached and coached. And I started getting more clients. And then I did this little seminar that 3 people showed up to, and I got a client from that. And they were like a $300 a month client. And then I moved out of the trailer. I actually got kicked out because the property owner, my kind of landlord at the time, the city had come and told her that it was illegal for her to rent to us. She was renting to like people that were just getting out of prison and drug rehab. And I was just like the odd man out of that group. And they said, you can't do this. And she had to evict everybody. But I was lucky enough. I had gotten some clients at the time. I had enough money where I could actually afford rent for the first time in a while, like beyond just the little bit that I was paying for my little trailer, right? And I moved in with some roommates and in a much nicer apartment, like a more luxurious apartment in the middle of San Diego, and continue to grow my practice. And I hired the top coach in the world at the time, as voted by his peers, Robert Alderman, who just passed away, just like this last year, like the last 12 months. And he trained me in what strategies I could integrate with being a great coach, because I just was a great coach at the time. And I knew nothing else that I could do that wouldn't just like really wreck that whole thing. And he taught me how to partner with people that would send me clients, and he taught me the strategies that I could use to set up events. And then at the time, I was also kind of learning internet strategies. I really built internet strategies a lot later, so that was a little bit later on at the time. But I started partnering and I started doing events. And it wasn't like I wasn't the entrepreneur. I wasn't the great marketer. I wasn't the great salesperson. All I knew how to do was coach and run free sessions and sign people up for coaching. I just knew sessions and coaching skills. The rest of that, partnerships and internet and events, what I call the PIES strategies. Those of you in Synergy Private Client Program, you guys know all about PIES. And I'll, after we're done with this video, I will chat the link to the PIES strategy video if you haven't yet seen it. It's in our kind of private archive, and you can check that out. But it was just, again, it was just partnering with other people that would send me clients, doing internet, using internet as a leverage point, and then using events as well as a leverage point. I was just starting to use that stuff, and I learned a ton of it from Robert at the time. But the whole time, these strategies, very, very simple strategies, mostly I was just doing my coaching. And then it was just plugged into these other leverage points so I could get more and more clients over time. And tons of clients, like half my clients were just coming from referral because I was just doing a great job coaching. I was building my business by actually doing coaching. But there's these other leverage points that were helping as well. Does that make sense? So by that time that I'd hired Robert, I was not only full-time, but I wasn't really failing anymore. Like I was now able to pay his fee. I was able to pay my rent. I moved into this kind of really cool high-rise apartment in downtown San Diego, and I was cranking. Like I was confident. I knew who I was, and I knew what I was up to. And I still had like no TV, no cable. You know, I still had dial-up internet, and all I would do is just like on when I had time off, I would just like listen to personal growth and you know, books on tape, and like read and just try to fill myself with as much as humanly possible that I was going to be able to give away to my clients and use for myself so I could drive myself to the next level as well. That was it. But I transitioned. It was still struggling. There's no doubt. I mean, I remember talking to Robert, and he was talking about all the different opportunities and all the different potential clients I was about to sign up, and I'd like lose a client. And because I would literally, I'd get a full practice. I'd be making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, paying all my bills and then some, saving money in the process. And Robert took a percentage, of course, so he would get more when I did that. And then I'd lose a few clients, and I wasn't making ends meet anymore. And then I have to build it back up. And so it was up and down and up and down and up and down. That's painful. I mean, that was more painful than just failing outright, because the uncertainty of it and the discomfort of it, and feeling like I knew I can do this now, but do I really want to go through the discomfort of it? And so it was a challenging time, but I had made it. I'd gone full time, and I was successfully doing it for the first time in my life. And I was like, wow, look at what I've done. And I'm like 27 and a half. It was epic. It was really a dream. And that is really the end of that part of the story. I mean, of course, I took it to the next level like 20 different times after that, but going full time, this is what it looks like. It's not pretty. It's not going to be comfortable necessarily. And it is not going to be, it's not going to be all the time success. And that's why most people don't do it. That's why even if you're in this program, even if you've gotten some clients, you will probably not go full time. I just know the odds. It's not because you can't. You probably, in this program, you've probably proven to yourself you can get paying clients, or that you're on your way to doing that, and proving to yourself that you know you can add value as a coach. I mean, that's literally what the program is about, is getting your business started and knowing you can add value and actually start to get paying clients out of it. It's a simple enough process that almost anybody can do. And if you've actually played full out at all, I know that's where you are. But you're probably still not going to go full time. And that's why, because of what I just shared with you. You know, that was not comfortable for me at all. Okay. And it was, I mean, there was a lot of joy in it, but there was also some serious pain at times as well. And so, you know, many are called and few are chosen, but that's what full-time looks like. That's what transitioning to a full-time coach looks like. It's no excuses. You know, there's no other options. There's no way out. You know, it's you're just focused on that one piece, and that's what you're committed to. You can't just flap around and find 10 different things that make you feel good in the moment. It's 100% commitment, 100% of you. Like you are in a way risking saying, this is who I am, and risking that that's not enough yet, because at some points it won't be. So you're saying, I am a coach, and then all of a sudden being a coach and knowing that's you, and then it's not working out, realize that you're the one that it's not working out with. Like, it's your coaching. So really investing in that and making that who you are, not just something you did a couple times and you dabbled in, to pat yourself in the back and think, hey, I can help people if I ever really wanted to do that. Again, nothing wrong with that. It's just understand that is not anywhere near going full time. It's 100% of your energy. And again, I'm not saying you can't do other things at all, but like when you really give 100% of your energy to this, you will have a different, it's different. It's not the same game. So that's what going full time actually is. Why would you do that though? Like, why would anybody ever do that? Because that does sound a bit uncomfortable, doesn't it? Sounds kind of tough. I didn't exactly make a good sales pitch here for actually doing that, right? So there's a lot of reasons why, I'm sure, and you've got to decide yours. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you your reasons. You got to work that out. That's number one, okay? It's possible. It's doable. You can do it. It's an opportunity for you potentially, but you don't have to take it. And you don't need to decide that there's any real purpose in it for you. And if there isn't, there isn't. But I'll tell you, these were the reasons for me. And I'll just talk through them as if they're your reasons. And again, I could totally be wrong. The reason why you go full-time as a coach is because it's who you are. Because you are a coach. And so just being authentic and being truthful about what your life is really about would have you go full-time. And that's where I got really clear in that moment when I was hitting bottom and was broke in every way, shape, or form of my life, even though I supposedly had all these resources that were supposed to work so well for me and make my life so lovely. They didn't. And the reason they didn't wasn't because they couldn't work. It's because I wasn't being myself. I wasn't being who I really was. And so no wonder. And it's like, maybe, I don't know, but maybe God or the universe or situations or whatever the mystical forces are out there, when we aren't operating as ourselves, or maybe it's just us, our subconscious, right? But maybe something in the universe just causes it so that that doesn't work out well. So it kind of sets us back on the right path. Because if it wasn't there, we'd probably just keep doing that. I suppose some people do. Some people live out their lives being someone else other than who they really are. And it's so unfortunate. I mean, it's so sad to just be someone that you never could fully live out, right? To act one life and know that you're completely different from that. That's pain. Think it was painful for me and uncomfortable for me? Sure it was. But if you're in that position where you're not even living out who you really are, you're not really living your purpose, you're not really being yourself and acting something else to please somebody else or try to be safe or avoid the discomfort that I just described for you, I know you're in more pain. If you focus on that, obviously we can distract ourselves, but it becomes harder to do that in more dire situations. And that's what I was saying. It's like maybe the universe puts us in those dire situations to wake us up. That was lucky for me to hit bottom. And if you're not there, then for certain, bless you, but there was a certain benefit in that for me. And so I don't ever wish that on anyone, but in a way I wish the wake up call on everyone for themselves to be who they really are, even if it has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. And you're just kind of like, checking this out, right? So the reason why you go full time is because it's who you are. The reason why you go full time is because when are you going to do it if you don't do it now? Some better situation where you got more money, it's more comfortable. Like I'm telling you, that was the whole point of me just telling you that story. It's never going to be comfortable. And if at some point in your life you get it to the point where it is comfortable, the discomfort, the other aspects of it that are uncomfortable will still stop you because you're so committed to the comfort. The coaches that I found have been the most surprising, but also the worst failures are the ones who had all the resources, all the money, all the situation where, like, if anybody was going to succeed as a coach, it should have been them. And almost none of them ever did. Those people in those situations. And I don't know exactly why. I can't tell you exactly, but I think the reason why is because they were so kind of fat and happy, you know, they were so comfortable with their current situation that the discomfort, that maybe it wasn't like financial discomfort for them, but the discomfort of really like trying to change lives and trying to make a difference, and the rejection that comes with that, and the failure that comes with that, and the ups and downs that come with that, like really having relationships where you are the source of someone's transformation, right? Or at least you're the coach who's going to facilitate that for them. Like, that's not comfortable stuff, especially when you first start and you've never done it before. You're gonna have a lot of situations where you don't know what to do, or where it doesn't work out well. And like, it's easy to blame ourselves or someone else. It's easy for them to blame us because we're the coach. It's like, hey, football team doesn't make it to the finals. Who gets fired? Like, the players usually don't. It's the coach. You know, if the coach gets fired, they play musical coaches again and again and again, right? So like, that's uncomfortable no matter what. So don't think like just finances and life situation and economy or any of these other things that may or may not be happening at this point when you're watching this video are like somehow gonna, like, stars gonna align and it's gonna make it so comfortable for you. The only reason you're putting that off, chances are, aside from obvious things that where it's like, okay, in 3 months or 6 months or something like that, and you really do have a plan, which almost nobody does, frankly. But the only real reason is not because of the situation, it's because of the comfort that you think those situations are going to bring to you. And you just don't want the discomfort of it. I can get that. But so then again, like, I asked myself that question, when am I ever going to do this? I realized the reason I have to do it now is because I'm never going to do it if I don't do it, like, now. And so the reason why you go full-time as a coach is because when are you going to do it? And chances are the answer is never. And by the way, if your answer to that is someday I'll do it, or soon I'll do it, or something like that, that translates into never for 99% of people. Why? Because of just what I just said. Because it's not about the timing. It's about the comfort level that you have. When you actually make the commitment to do it, and like I said, you really make it so there's no out, so there's no excuses, so you're 100% committed and that's who you are. You work out the timing. Like, everything else like turns on that axis. Without that, it'll just be a likely story. But the real reason is because, like I said, you know, like, don't want to deal with it. Don't really want to do it. Not really committed. Never really made the choice. But it's a choice that you can make. Final reason that I'll share with you, and again, you'll have your own, I'm sure, why you go full-time as a coach is, when will it be more likely for you to do it? When I'm yelling at you or some other time when I'm not around? When you've just gotten into momentum and gotten a couple paying clients and just gotten a little bit of oxygen, just started to see what's possible and started to open your eyes and say, wow, this is who I am, or this could be who I am, and got some momentum and support and a community around you of people that are really committed? Or like 4 months after that, right? When is it going to be more likely? So those are just my pieces as to why. I'm sure there's a ton more reasons that we could give, but those are the ones that really hit me like 18 years ago when I did it. And I didn't have half the resources that you have. I mean, the internet, again, did not provide like how-to programs and support systems and credentialing. And like, that stuff was not easy to come by. Like, everything was done by conference call at best, right? So much easier now to get the chops coaching wise and get your business together. Like, you can learn all of that like in so many different ways. And we're here, of course, to support you as well. And we'll talk about that. But I mean, it's so accessible. Was not I mean, I didn't know half the stuff that you already know at the time that I went full time. So finally, the question is, how do you do this then, Jeff? I mean, you know, if we talked about what going full time really is, I shared with you a little bit about what that looked like for me and why you might do it. And I'm sure, again, like I said, you got your own reasons. So how's that done? The good news is that some of this you already know. If you've gone through Quick Start with me, you already know that there is a formula to this. And if you just repeat that formula, it will continue to ratchet up your results. There's this concept that I learned personally from Seth Godin called the ratchet. And if you know what a ratchet is, I'll just describe it here for those of you that aren't into mechanics. A ratchet is, think of it like a wrench, but it's a wrench that only goes one way. Like you turn the wrench and it'll tighten the screw. And then if you turn the wrench the other way, nothing happens. It just, it's that little clicking sound, click, 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 and then you tighten it even more. So with this ratchet, so to speak, what's guaranteed when you move the ratchet, no matter how you use the ratchet, what's guaranteed is at some point, the screw or the bolt or the nut or whatever you're doing is going to go in the direction that you want it to, right? If you want to tighten the bolt, it's going to tighten. If you want to loosen the bolt, you just flip the little switch and then it loosens it. You switch the ratchet around, right? So I could take this ratchet that's connected in the way that I want it connected, and I could spin it the wrong way for 10 years. And I'm not going to go backwards. As soon as I start going the other way, that I'll go forward. I'll actually make progress. I'll make gains in this case, the bolt or the nut, right? So you get the concept here. That's what a ratchet does. It only goes in one direction, not the other. You never take steps back. It's not like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's 2 steps forward, 0 steps back. You just keep making progress. It's inevitable. It's guaranteed. When we talked about inevitability thinking, in the planning part of Quick Start, we really were talking about this concept, this ratchet concept. What you want, ideally, in a business, especially if you're going to go full time, really dedicate yourself, you want a ratchet. And there are businesses out there that have these ratchets that, like Starbucks, as long as they keep doing their Starbucks thing, they keep getting stores on the right corners and keep doing their marketing the way they do and keep making nice places, couches for people to sit on while they're drinking their lattes, Starbucks will ratchet up their growth. They're going to grow more. They're going to make more money. I mean, it's just like this machine, right? Even in a horrible market, which we have currently, and you might be watching this at a future point, like Starbucks is still a gigantic asset. Disney is a great example of the same thing. Like we should be buying Disney right now because it's on sale. Why? Not because their parks are open, because they're not. They're closed right now. Not because the cruise ships aren't like petri dishes for coronavirus. They are, right? The reason why we buy Disney is not because they're having a great time and making all this money. The reason we buy that is because they have a ratchet, and their ratchet is they make intellectual property. We call those stories, right? They make Beauty and the Beast and some of Disney's stories are like they purchased from somebody else, or it was like in the public domain even, and they just stole the story basically. But like Pinocchio or whatever, right? They own all these IPs. They own these stories, the characters, the all the backdrops, the books, and of course the movies, etc. And every one of those, they have a formula, a ratchet formula, where we create a character, we create a story, we sell it to the kids. The kids have to go see it. The kids buy a bunch of merchandise. Parents have to do that. And then we watch it on the Disney Channel. And then they come to the parks and they pay to go on the ride and on and on and on. And you get the idea, right? They create one asset, the Little Mermaid, and then you buy the movie, you buy the stuffed animal, you go to the park and ride the ride, on and on and on, right? They have, and they own all of that and make money with it. So every time they turn that ratchet, and what's their turning of the ratchet? Let's make another IP. Let's make another story. Let's get another character in here. Those aren't that hard to come up with, right? In fact, again, when they don't come up with one themselves, they steal one or they buy it. They bought Star Wars. That's another one of their ratchets. They didn't do a very good job with that, but it's another story. We can argue about that later. You can geek out on Star Wars, but the point being, when they create a story, they've turned the ratchet and they know we're only going to make money. Create another story, make more money. Another story, make more money. You get the idea? Now they could go backwards, right? There's a really bad virus out there right now. they're going backwards. They're going to close their parks for a while. They're going to lose some money, etc. But as soon as things come back, as soon as they make another story, they got that ride in the park and they're bigger and better. So you want a ratchet in your business. So how to go full time is really the best, the question to ask, the question you should be asking is, how do I build a ratchet? How do I make it so it's inevitable that I should be able to go full time and do that and have my business day in, day out working for me the way I want? And I have to understand, what is the turning of that ratchet? What is that for me in my business? And you've already learned that. That's a nice thing. In QUICKSTART, you've already learned it. All you got to do is repeat it. So what did you learn that the ratchet was? Prospect, get free sessions, turn those free sessions into new clients, and then you rinse and repeat. Now, it gets a little fancier than that, right? One way it gets fancier than that is, because that's kind of hard work. I mean, I think you figured that out by now. One of the ways it goes to the next level, another ratchet aspect of what you've already learned, is that once you work really hard and you get a couple of clients, let's say you really help them and you change their lives and you help them make more money, and you use your coaching skills and you are tremendously valuable for those clients. At the end of those coaching relationships, or maybe they'll go on for years and you'll just do this anyway, you're going to get testimonials from those clients. You're going to do case studies on how they succeeded. And you're going to get all those testimonials and case studies, and you're going to publish them everywhere you can. You're going to print them out in a book if you meet people face to face. You're going to put them online on the internet. You're going to email them out to your prospects. You're going to put them on YouTube. You're going to put them everywhere you can, right? I mean, we have a giant wall of shame, so to speak, like a huge a part of mastercoachuniversity.com where there's nothing but we have thousands of testimonials basically and case studies on there, right? Because we built that over the last couple of decades, right? That's part of our ratchet. So what happens, you get these couple clients, then you've got some testimonials, and the next clients you get, it's a little bit easier. Why? Because it's like, hey, I've already created results. I mean, look at these testimonials. Look at what these people are bragging about, what they did. I mean, I worked with them on that. Had I not worked with them, they probably wouldn't have produced those same level of results, if not those results at all. So those testimonials make it more effortless to do the same process. Eventually, you get enough testimonials, enough case studies, enough people who are really singing your praises, people will chase after you. You don't even have to prospect. Just free sessions equal new clients, right? So that's part of the ratchet is every time I do this PFSNC equation, I get more clients, I make more money, I can keep growing my business. But the other part is, as I really make a difference for people because I'm a great coach, because I'm building this business by coaching, not by manipulating and BSing people. I got testimonials, and then I can go back out, and the same ratchet is that it's like a high gear that it puts you in. And when you go through Synergy Private Client Program, we talk about that. We actually go through this program called Effortless Enrollment Mastery. And the whole effortless enrollment ratchet cycle is getting clients, getting the testimonials, and then it gets effortless or more effortless and more effortless and more effortless to the point where like Thomas, I told you guys about Thomas the other day. It's like Thomas called me and he said, I got 10 new paying clients in 1 month. And I didn't even do any work to get it. They just showed up. I'm not even trying. And I literally remember talking to him just last week. That was the point of effortless enrollment. You lived it. You did it. You've got a ratchet. You did exactly what I'm describing to you guys right now. So point being, that's another aspect of your ratchet. More testimonials, easier, higher gear ratchet. And then you just rinse and repeat that process. I'm oversimplifying, but that's the idea. That's how you go full time. So now what is it going to take to execute that effectively, to really succeed at that? Two big things. And then we'll talk about the performance levels that you need to achieve. Number one is you need to master coaching, right? You can't just be decent some of the time. You need to make sure that anybody you work with anytime, anywhere, that's within at least your niche and realm of who you're going to ultimately work with, it's pretty much guaranteed that you're going to make a difference for them. You're going to change their lives. You're going to change their business. You're going to make a difference. That means you need to become a master. You need to just consider committing to become a master, actually being open to the possibility of being a master coach, not just being a decent coach. You can be a decent coach with what you learn in QUICKSTART, but mastering coaching is like, that's what we do in Master Coach University. There's other ways to do it, I'm sure, but that's like our students' way. And when you master coaching and you're running those free sessions, you get more clients from them because you made a bigger difference and people want you more. And when you get those clients, more of them succeed and they do better, obviously, right? Because you've mastered the coaching that really will make a difference. If coaching truly makes a difference and can create anything for someone within the realm of reality, then if you're a master at it, you're going to do that and you get more testimonials. The mastery of coaching actually is implicit to this ratchet. It's a part of that. And when I see a coach that their ratchet's not working, they're doing this and it's not going anywhere, like nothing's getting tighter, they're making no progress, I know one of two things. Either they're not even doing it, like they just gave up. Like the other day we talked to Kenyana, she's like, I gave up for 2 years. Just didn't do it. Right? It's like, well, you got a ratchet maybe. You just left it alone. You just walked away from the ratchet, right? Or they are missing that skill potentially. Like their coaching is just not that great. And so they're spinning this ratchet around. It doesn't have enough bite to it, so to speak. Does that make sense? All right. So that's one thing. You got to master coaching to some extent to add enough value to really make yourself irreplaceable, right? To whoever your market is. And that'll create this ratchet for you. And then second, consider leveraging those up by mastering the business aspects that could empower the business of your coaching. And we learn these in Effortless Enrollment Mastery as well, in the Synergy program. And we also go through this in Master Coach University, if you're in the Mastery program especially, which is what I call the PIES strategy, P-I-E-S. The P stands for partnerships. If you have a partner that sends you clients because they know that you're a master of coaching and you really have a great ratchet, and they can partner with you and they don't have to worry about the coaching because that's tough for them at least, but it's easy for you because you're crushing it, you're going to get a ton more clients. That's a huge lever. Internet is a huge lever. You're coaching over the internet. You could be coaching millions of people at once, right? Or at least adding value to millions of people so they'll be attracted to running free sessions with you. And your testimonials get on the internet so everybody sees them, right? I mean, you want to search for Master Coach University or QUICKSTART testimonials. They're all over the map. They're all like literally, you could Google it and you'll find that stuff, right? It wasn't hard for me to get that to you. If you want to know what they are, I mean, Google will bring them to you. You know, I don't have to work that hard for that. So internet is a huge lever for the mastery of whatever it is that I or you will provide our clientele. And then events, that's the E, P-I-E. So I is internet, E is events. You do an event, it's one-to-many, creates authority. It also leverages you because you're coaching many people at once. And it creates an event so that people need to make a decision to get with you very quickly, or else you're off to the next event. You know, speakers are in huge demand. You show me a speaker, I'll show you somebody who could have a 6-figure coaching business in no time. You know, because they already got the audience. I mean, the rest is just this formula we just talked about, really, among other, coaching skills as well, of course. So that's the PIE in PIES. Partnerships, internet, events. And the S, you've already learned the S. I mean, you can master it if you go to the next level with us. But the S is just sessions, i.e. free sessions, the free session model. Partners send you free sessions. Internet sends you free sessions. Events turn into free sessions because you asked for people to sign up for free sessions during the event. So those are just big levers that once, people complain sometimes about free sessions are being a waste of time or not making them enough money. Well, you use these high levers with free sessions, you're going to make a lot of money. I don't know anybody who's using one of those levers, that knows what they're doing with those levers, that also has a free session model like plugged into that ratchet, that isn't like tremendously growing their business by leaps and bounds as well. So master the business of coaching, and that's it. I mean, you master those 4 aspects: the free sessions, the partnerships, the internet side, and the event side, and that's the skill set right there. So master coaching and master the business. Those 2 things combined, you can't help but have a ratchet. I mean, it's inevitable. That's what Seth Godin was talking about when he talked about the ratchet. Guaranteed progress over time. And then that's the only question is whether you're going to perform. Then you're the only variable in your business. I love that, because if I'm the variable, then all I got to work on is me. I don't have to figure the rest of this stuff out because that's already taken care of. Like, I got to do it, but then I just got to do it. So how do you handle your own performance? Well, again, we talked about this a lot in QUICKSTART. I'll give you a different version of it. Number one is you got to handle your own pain and pleasure. If it's too painful for you to do the work, you won't do it, right? And if you're getting too much pleasure from outside of the coaching business, i.e. by not going full time, by not committing, by not burning your boats, you will just sublimate and you'll go do other things. You'll go watch Netflix, or you'll go do your other business that's easy and that just prints money for you, or just hang out with family, or just whatever just is just nice for you and fun. Like, this isn't always fun for me. But I also don't let myself do other things during work hours when I'm committed, because if I had the option to do something other than just talk to you right now, I would totally do it. Like, I'm enjoying this, but like there's other things I could enjoy a little bit more, I think, right? So that's just not an option for me. That's what being a full-time coach looks like to some extent. So when you get your pain and pleasure worked out, when you've balanced those scales properly and you've set the stage for the pain and pleasure to drive you to do your business and perform in your business, two things will happen. Number one, you'll take action. You're going to take the actions. If you don't have that worked out, you probably won't. But then also number two is you'll be committed. And if you're not committed, you're not going to get a lot of clients, because people can smell your lack of commitment, your lack of being what I would call full-time, right? So pain and pleasure, you got to work that piece out. And then the rest kind of follows suit with that. Part of that process, I just saw this the other day. I watched this video, and this very high-level business owner who I kind of follow was basically talking about pain and pleasure. He was talking about how most people totally fail because they wire themselves for failure. But I was like, I know this stuff. I've been through all the Tony Robbins pain and pleasure stuff. I mean, I know this stuff like the back of my hand. I teach this stuff. But he said something very interesting that I thought, like, biochemically made a lot of sense. He said, really, your problem is if you're not getting the output level you need, you're not working the 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day or 20 hours a day that you need to do at this point for whatever that is needed in your business. Most people can't get the output level. They're just not productive enough, right? And he said, the reason why you're never going to do that and you're never going to make it, you're never going to go, like we would call full-time, you're not going to have a successful business. It's possible. The reason why you won't do it is because your dopamine is screwed up. You go on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or something, and you get an instant dopamine hit from the variety and the filling up of your brain with new all sorts of new things, right? Or you go on Netflix, or you go surf the internet, or you go do 10 other things that are just like fun and give you pleasure. But his explanation was, every time you get that little bit of pleasure, you're getting a dopamine hit. It's like a drug. That stuff gets you high, as they would say in Fight Club. I think they use that vernacular, right? So all that stuff, it's like, you might not be addicted to a drug, right? But your brain creates this dopamine drug, i.e. pleasure. And as long as there's enough of that running 24/7, which is very easy to access nowadays with the internet, etc., and there's people that are employed 24/7 to just figure out how to get you to want those things even more, the salty pretzels or the YouTube videos, the algorithms, etc. They're there to figure out how to get you to be a willing slave, a dopamine slave, basically, right? And look, I mean, can you possibly imagine like running a coaching business, doing all the stuff you got to do that, while you're also simultaneously getting 24/7 dopamine hits from all this other stuff that takes no wisdom, no courage, no decision, no certainty on your part, no power, no growth. You're never going to do it. You're just going to go do the drugs of all this other stuff unless you put up some barriers to that. So this guy explained, he's like, at some point, if I start trailing off and I'm not productive enough, I know I'm not at my level of output that I need to, he has his own ratchet, so to speak. He says, I go on a dopamine fast. First time I'd heard this term, I looked it up, and it's all over the internet. You could feel free to Google it. But basically all it is just barring yourself from easy pleasure, what one of my mentors used to call false pleasures, right? And so the way he talks about it is go on a dopamine fast. You're fasting, you're starving yourself of instant pleasure, instant dopamine hits. And so at first, of course, I'm sure this is quite uncomfortable, but at some point your brain chemistry realigns itself and starts getting little bits of dopamine from like making your calls, from running your coaching business, from doing the things that you know you need to do, even if you're not doing it yet. And you start getting the dopamine from that, and all of a sudden now you're addicted to that. there's a psychological ratchet for you. So dopamine fast leads to that. Now, look, I think there's a really easy shortcut to a dopamine fast. I don't think you got to do all this deprivation stuff. I really don't. I think there's two keys. The first one we already talked about in Quick Start, which is just make your coaching business so enormously pleasurable, like so off the charts, joyful and fulfilling in your own mind's eye. Like visualize that and then write it down and journal about it and think about all the great things that you're going to get and just stack and stack and stack that dopamine. You're like, the other stuff is going to pale in comparison, right? So you got to stack that pleasure on the side of the things that you need to do, not just the stuff you feel like doing. You don't have to stack pleasure for watching Netflix. I mean, they're taking care of that for you. The people that you pay, at Netflix, that's their job. Okay. So you got to stack your own pleasure. You got to advertise it yourself. You got to set up your own dopamine system. Okay. And we've got that in the Quick Start. I mean, you should have learned that if you went through the trainings that we talked about. I'm not going to waste my time on it here. Get it handled. Okay. But then besides that, here's another aspect. If you're still having trouble, which maybe you would be, even if you're doing that, don't need a dopamine fast. All you need to do to get your pain and pleasure back in alignment so that you're doing what you need to do rather than what you shouldn't be doing is let go. All you need to do is let go. Because look, I mean, yeah, don't you want to like see that next video or scroll through the news feed or yeah, you want to do all that. But like, it's because you're clinging to the dopamine of it. There's that addiction of that clinging, that you got a chokehold on your pleasure. You're controlling it. You'll still have pleasure without those things. We've proven that for billions of years. Okay, you don't need those things to have pleasure, right? You just think you do because it's the momentary dopamine hit that you get that's associated with that. And it's a stranglehold that you have on that. So if you can just take a practice of letting it go, just like, it's actually kind of lazy. If you think about it, it doesn't take any work to let go. Here's what takes work is clinging to that pleasure, is being attached to it. That takes a crazy amount of work. Just be lazy, let it go. Take it easy, take a nap rather than going after those pleasure hits. And next time you feel like doing it, just be like, hey, I'm letting go of that. Just let it go. No need for the dopamine from it because you've already let it go. You have the power to do that at any moment if you really truly choose to. But like I said, I mean, I definitely didn't do that at that time. I had no clue about letting go at the point of time when I went full time. What I knew about, though, and what Tony Robbins had taught me is what taught you in Quick Start, which is stack the pleasure that you want to get yourself to do. That's where the work is. Planning out those purposes that buoy up why you're doing it in the first place, why you would go full time. If you don't have that purpose and you don't work that stuff out, it's DOA. You're like, I can't do it for you forever. It won't work anyway because it won't be authentic. It'll be like what I said rather than what you actually really, truly, authentically have within yourself, within your own soul. So whether it's a dopamine fast or letting go or pain and pleasure, stacking, you're gonna act and you're gonna commit. You will perform as a result of doing some of those things in some way, shape, or form, unless you're just automatically high performance, which I doubt. I mean, maybe every once in a while, there's 1 out of 900 people is going to be like that. But the rest of us humans, we actually got to do something in order to become that person, right? I definitely was not that person before I started coaching, before I started my coaching business at all. And then it's just performance. Once you can get yourself to act and commit, then you just got to learn how to perform best. And that skill set will come with time, experience stacks over time. Like that's the ratchet, right? I've got more skills every day. I got more experience every day. All you got to do is do it. How do you learn to be a great coach? You coach. How do you learn to be a master of your coaching business? You run your business. How do you learn the pies model and how to run great free sessions? You run free sessions and you get partners and you do internet and you do this stuff. You do it and you get better at it as a result. And you'll figure it out over time. We're going to give you a ton of answers if you work with us farther than just what we do in Quick Start together as well. And I'll always be there to support you, of course, because I'm committed to that. So you ramp up the skills, you get the experience, and then it becomes who you are. How do you become a coach? You become a coach by coaching. Get this. You can coach once or twice and you're not going to be a coach just because you did that once or twice. But if you go full time, then you can't help but be a coach. You can't help but know that's who you are. Stay with me here for a second. If I tell you a joke, then like that's fine. It was funny for a second. You know, it was a funny joke. But if I tell you a joke and I tell you another joke and another joke and another joke, and every day I make you laugh, now it's no longer just I told a funny joke. I did something. Now I am a funny person. That becomes me because I just did it repeatedly. And so if you just repeat this process, that'll be who you become. You become a coach, not just to yourself. You'll believe it too, but you'll become a coach to everyone around you because they'll be impacted by who you are as a coach. I mean, my family regularly comes up to me. That doesn't just get me to help with the VCR and the stuff that they're not like really technically minded to do. And then maybe I'm a little bit more of a geek, but they come to me when they really have a challenge because they know who I am. You know, now before I was a full-time coach, some of them did that anyway. Then I just went professional and boosted that out to like wider circles of my community. But like people around me, like they know who I am. Why? Because I do it every day. I live it. I'm not just playing around. It's not just a game. So it becomes your identity. And as it becomes your identity, you perform differently because you know who you are and people know who you are for them as well. And then finally, the reason why you're going to perform is because, hey, your pay is dependent on it. You know, sometimes like just knowing that you're not going to keep this client unless you do a really amazing job with them can get you to perform a little better as a coach. I know it has for me at times. Like I'll still be a phenomenal coach for everybody, no matter what they're paying or not paying. If I'm committed to doing it, no doubt about that. But there's a different level of tenacity that will show up when you're paid $1,000 a month to coach somebody. Like there's no doubt that's going to go well. Like it has to, because my livelihood depends on it, not just, you know, my client's success level as well. So pain and pleasure gets you to act and commit, and then performance comes with time as you build skills and experience and identity and pay. Once look, if it's just economics for you not to go full time, then you should go full time, because as soon as you go full time, your economics will be like a part of your dream as a coach, and then you can't let go, because when your bread is buttered as a coach financially, and you're passionate about it, and it's who you are, and you're totally fulfilled, it's like nobody's going to stop you from doing it. Then there's another kind of like why to do it, I guess. So that's it. I mean, that's a little bit of my story. That's what going full time looks like and why to do it. Again, you got to come up with your own, like I said. That's the how of it, the mechanics of it. Repeating what you did in Quick Start, taking it to the next level, either by going through Master Coach University so you can master coaching, or getting into synergy with Chris and I so you can master your business, or doing both. I mean, like Thomas, the guy that got the 10 clients, he did both. You know, he signed up for Master Coach University, and then like a year or two later, he signed up for synergy with Chris. And I literally, when he did that, I think it was like the second or third time this had ever happened. Somebody going in Master Coach University and then going in synergy. And I was like, why is he in synergy? I mean, he's already like done everything, but he was just that committed. And Chris had some resources for him, and we took him through his paces there. You know, years later, he's getting 10 clients in a month. It's like, wow. So he mastered the business and he mastered coaching in his way. And we just supported him in doing that. So we've got great ways to support you in doing that. If you want to do that, great, talk to us about it. But however you do it, get it done. Because you're going to have to, if this full-time coach thing is going to be a reality for you. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about what to do after Quick Start. Like, how does a coach, once they're complete with the boot camp, move to the next level? And we already talked a little bit about it today and the mechanics of that. And so this kind of is a preview to that conversation. But we're going to talk in more detail as to exactly how we work with coaches, such that we kind of hit the ground running with what you do coming out of Quick Start, and immediately you go to the next level. You know, it's that kind of exponential growth we see with the virus right now. Like that becomes you and your business in a positive way, rather than a kind of a make you sick kind of way. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Keep playing full out. You know, even if you're going to take a break after this, like, remember, you are not even close to done. And by the way, the reason I say that is because the first week of the boot camp is like an hour. Didn't it go fast? Didn't it feel like that was a blink of an eye ago? like the last couple weeks, week 2 and week 3, that's like a couple days. Now it's like, okay, you're grinding, you're taking some time. It feels like it gets a little bit slower because now you're really busy with some things, and gives you a pause when you have to have those breakthroughs to actually start talking to people in your life and really making a difference for them, like just being generous with yourself. But the last couple days of Quick Start, they last like 3 months. Why? Because it feels like, hey, I should be done with this. I've done all this work. I mean, like I'm done. It's over. Like, just stop already. Like, why do we have another live stream? Why are you coaching me still? Like, why do I still have to like report in this last week? I mean, didn't I do enough? And by the way, like, and we talked about this during the coaching session. If we made this 5 weeks, the 4th week would, like, do you realize that if there was a 5th week, this week would still feel like the last couple of weeks? It would be going by like a blink of an eye. It's the psychology that's changed, not the time. Time moves however it moves, but it bends and changes based upon your own subconscious view of reality. So you're not like, you've literally only gone through really like less than a third of the Quick Start Bootcamp. The last 2/3 of the bootcamp is going to be happening in these last like 3, 4, 5 days, wherever you are with that. Because those days, they go like molasses, because you're dealing with the next challenge. Like, remember before you signed up for Quick Start Bootcamp, or before you got in, it was like everything moved in slow motion. It's like, am I going to really do this? I got to check in. I'm kind of scared. Maybe this is not the right move. And all that kind of stuff happens. It goes really slow. Reality slows down, right? And then all of a sudden things start moving, right? When we get into the boot camp. Right now, it's right before this is not the end, it's the beginning of the next stage for you, whatever that really is for you. And it's like the first time, like in evolution, so to speak, if you believe in that, like the fish who only had gills to breathe crawled up on land, and there was like this opportunity to get food or something, and that's why it needed to be there, or escape like other things that were hunting it in the water. I don't know, some kind of predator. And it had to figure out, like, how do I breathe with no lungs, right? And then this distinction of actually breathing air had to be created somehow. And by hook or by crook, it happened, right? And here we are, breathing oxygen without fluid, without water, not getting it out of water, getting out of the air. And that's what you're probably starting to experience at this point in the boot camp. It's this sense of, oh, this thing's over pretty quick. And my community may not like be there the same way. And Jeff's not going to be coaching me like this. And people aren't going to be like pushing me on. And like that inspiration needs to start getting inside of you. And it's like, how am I going to do that? And all of a sudden start thinking deeply about those things, and things get really slow. Like, okay, how am I going to handle this? And that squirming, you start to squirm basically. And I'm telling you, that squirming, it's about comfort. It's just more of the same. It's the same thing that you dealt with when you just started prospecting. You did the things that were really kind of tough for you during the boot camp. It's like Groundhog Day all over again, right? So we're going to talk about tomorrow how to get past that, how we're going to support you in doing that. But either way, I could totally appreciate and empathize kind of if you're experiencing some of that. And the reason I brought this up today is not because we're going to cover it today, because again, we're going to cover it tomorrow, but because I really want to let you know that in these last couple of days of the boot camp, this is where all of the growth is. This is where all of the rewards are. This is where all your clients come from. This is where who you become as a coach is like really available to you. Not because it couldn't happen before, but because these last couple reps where your muscles are burning and where you gasping for air, like this is where we are. Like you're at those last couple reps. And if you do those reps, it has nothing to do with you getting big muscles. Has nothing to do with you being more skilled as a coach or getting another client. Although, hey, if it happens, great. That has everything to do with everything we talked about today, is you going through the discomfort and then becoming who you need to become, so that this is going to be a ratchet for you and you'll just ratchet up that coaching business over time. So play full out in these last couple of days. Don't think you got it handled. It's so easy to get overconfident at this point. Don't think that everything's just going to be great because you've got a client or you did your prospecting, or we celebrated that you were at the top of the top, right? You might be the cream of the crop right now, but you have work to do. just to finish the boot camp and play full out and really truly fulfill the promises that are in store for you here. It's not about four weeks or 5 weeks or 3 weeks. It's about you knowing that you completed the journey. So any coaching I can give you beyond what we talked about today and going full time is complete the journey. Like actually finish what you've started here, which means that you're playing 100%, 1,000%, doing one more thing that you did last week, playing full out all the way up until 11:59 p.m. and 59 seconds on Sunday night when you're going to report your accomplishments. I mean, you should be like 11:30 p.m. on Sunday, like calling people you haven't called or following up on the free sessions that you did, saying, hey, look, last chance to get into coaching with me, or hey, we do this free session right now. I mean, you should be doing, again, it's not like you are going to do that. I don't know, right? But something at that moment is going to be in store for you, and you'll know what it is, and you'll know whether or not you actually decided to go for it or hold back and watch more Netflix. And really, frankly, I've told you this before. I'll say it again because it bears repeating. There is no difference whatsoever between you getting a dopamine rush from flipping through Facebook or watching one of my videos or watching Netflix or doing some other thing that's not necessarily going to pay off for you. It's not really who you are. There's no difference between any of those other things, watching TV and changing the world. There's no difference. It's just doing different things with your time. And you act like that's not the case. You're acting like, oh, no, Netflix feels a lot better than that other thing. And I'm telling you, my coaching for you, I'm sitting here and saying, no, it's the same thing. You just get to decide which one's going to give you the pleasure, which one's going to make you who you are. What are you going to make your life about? That's what this whole boot camp was about, answering that question. And now you get to answer it, because before you really didn't necessarily have the experience. You didn't have the clients. You didn't have the free sessions. You weren't doing that side of things. And by the way, even if like you're watching this and you didn't do any of that stuff and you just learn coaching and practice coaching, it's the same for you on that level, on being a master coach, mastering this stuff and really being the basis for people truly transforming, having the life, the business, the finances, the relationships, the body, the health, the energy that they deserve truly in their life. And you being a gift for that in whatever way that practice or business or employment relationship or coaching job is going to turn out for you. It's the same thing. So I don't want to say it anymore. It's just like, I can't even be with that conversation because it's so predictable that you're going to look at it like it's somehow different, and it's just not. And that's what's possible for you if you really get that handled and you can own that distinction. Like it's really possible, like trying the jacket on and taking the coaching just for a moment. It's like you can do anything if you have that attitude about it, I think. But do what works for you. Like that's the point. I will talk to you tomorrow for our last live stream. Take care until then.